welcome to our Wednesday night live show. Me and Nash Talks Texas coming at you. We're going to update you on SEC Media Days here in Tampa Bay. We're going to talk a little bit about Cole Hutson and the news that just dropped there. But first, guys, make sure you're running over to Inside Texas. I was about to say hopping. I'm tired. It's been a day. But again, you can get all the updates from SEC Media Days. Again, Texas goes tomorrow and plenty of other old content for just a single dollar. How we doing tonight, Nash? You doing okay, my man?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. Got to see the Odyssey earlier. I mean, it's it's kind of I don't know. It's a little overhyped, but I think that there's only so much that you can do with a story like that. You can't stray from it. You can't do your own adaptation on it.
Yeah, that's the
Uh,
thing. You can't. Yeah, the story is what the story is. So
yeah,
it's
it's it's like a concert. Once you've been to one, you kind of seen them all. But I mean,
absolutely
it was pretty cool.
good, man. Glad you got to enjoy that. I honestly want to go see it again. I liked it the first time enough to go see it a second time. Chris, good to see you, man. My man in here as always. Yes, I was at Raymond James Stadium earlier, just for about an hour. It was a cool just to see the setup of the stadium. I hadn't got to see the pirate ship with my own eyes. And I'll tell you what, man, back like almost 25 years ago, those O2 Bucks, those early 2000s Bucks, that was my squad, man, both on Madden and then in real life, Mike Allstott, work done, Warren Sapp, Keyshawn Johnson, Brad Johnson was all right at quarterback, but obviously that was Gruden's guys. They were good teams. But yeah, we're gonna talk a little bit about these first couple of days of SEC Media Days, but let's start with Cole Hudson because that's some pretty big news. He's been granted what, and this is a new term for me, but TRO basically means Nash. From what you just said, we're gonna pop it up right here. Uh, he's been granted a temporary restraining order against the NCAA. So, like Nash said right before he came on live, basically we passed the first step, or Cole Hudson has passed the first step. But right now it says we can resume college football activities. So we'll see where it goes from there. Gonna get Nash's thoughts. Want your thoughts? What happens? Does Texas want Cole Hudson back? I don't think we know that yet at Inside Texas. Would Cole Hudson play anywhere else? Nash, kind of what are your thoughts on this, and kind of what do you expect to unfold here?
I mean, I'm not even sure how the whole portal process would go down with that. Uh, this feels like almost like I don't want to say it's unprecedented territory, but I mean, there's not been a lot of these situations that have happened. So maybe he's able to like get a release from his letter of intent. I'm not sure. Uh, but as far as him coming back to Texas, I mean, it feels like at best he's going to be depth. It doesn't. He could possibly compete for a starting job at left guard. He's got a ton of experience there. But when we're bringing in Seymour and Siani, you pair that with Baker, you pair that with Robertson at center, and Banks at left tackle. That feels like the best group the best five that we're going to throw out there. So I mean, or I shouldn't say at the most, but at the very least, it's great depth. Getting Cole if Cole Hudson's back on the Texas Longhorns roster, uh, with Dylan Sikorsky from Oregon State, also in the mix for depth. But yeah, I mean, it's wild times. He was there's photos of him in a spring training camp for NFL team wearing an NFL roster or NFL jersey, and then now he's back in college. Why? Like,
Played 48 games.
I mean, imagine telling somebody this back in 2009 or something like that. Like you're crazy.
I'm not complaining. I mean, it's like if Texas wants Cole, great. But I mean, like what? It's just I don't know. Like what? How many others are going to follow suit? You know what I mean? Like what's going to happen next? But again, what's interested to see what happens right now. Again, as Evan pointed out over on Inside Texas, make sure y'all are checking out all the stuff he's putting up right now. I know he posted an article right before he hopped on the plane to come to Tampa and join me over here. Um, Go check it out. We'll see what happens. We'll again, I agree with you from a depth perspective. Like it could be another depth piece, but I think Texas, from everything that we're hearing, feels pretty good about some of the pieces and options, behind these starter guys. And again, curious to see that weight dropping today. Lawrence Seymour was a little bit lighter than kind of expected, but hey, that's not the topic for the show. We'll get into that another time. This for Cole Hudson. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll see down the line. Make sure you're staying tuned over at Inside Texas. As getting the latest updates on Cole Hutson. But yeah, so let's go to SEC Media Days. Ash, we're over here. Day one, I feel like we kind of had build up, man. Like Monday was okay, Tuesday was all right, and it's not to knock those coaches, but from like personality standpoints, today was going to be a lot more fun because you have Summerall, who's new to the SEC, new to Florida. Obviously, you have DeBoer, there's a lot going around Alabama right now because they can't run the football. Not everybody's convinced he wants to be there. Rumors about other jobs last year and potential next year. It was just a weird energy. And then yeah, Mike Elko again. We're going to cover A&M because we're Texas, and then you had Pete Golding, who coming fresh off the Ole Miss debacle. Pete was awesome, by the way. His son's an incredible golfer. Found that out. Shot 35 last week. I don't think I could do that, Nash, if I played 5 holes. But anyways, he was great. A lot of people on the boards on Inside Texas, Nash. I don't know if you saw any of the comments over on the SEC Media Day 3 thread, but they're kind of hard on him, man. They were like, "Is he the Charlie Strong of Ole Miss football?" I thought personally he crushed it. I thought he did a hell of a job. I don't know if you got to hear much of it. Very refreshing to hear him talk about the number one thing at Ole Miss is to just be a good dude. And it's like, well, that's easier said than done, of course. But like, if he's in there reiterating that to these young men on a daily basis, these young men who need direction and need that type of leadership, it's just hard not to root for that guy. So that was a good point. Yeah, man, Trinidad Chambliss, Kawan Lacey, and then what's the last name I'm missing? Will Eccles, who was there representing the defense. Pretty funny. He was asked a question about Lane Kiffin and how they go into that game, make it about that game, and move on from that game. And he looked down to his right, closed his eyes, took a deep breath, looked back up, and then everybody at that point was ready to laugh. So he kind of laughed with everybody too. It was a really funny moment. I hated I didn't get that one on video, but Nash, what are kind of your thoughts on just Pete Golding? I mean, like, how much pressure is he in to go ahead? Because you got a lot of players left over from this Ole Miss group, right? So, or at least on the offense, the star power, a lot of star power is back. You got Deuce Alexander, wide receiver. They're going to be good. Schedule's pretty hard. You had a really Armageddon early matchup with your former boss man in LSU, and you get to have that in your own backyard. Next week, they travel to the Swamp, and it's going to be an interesting season. You think Golding's under a lot of pressure to immediately win?
I think he's under a lot of pressure to win one single game. I mean, just calling it how it is.
You really got it right. Yeah,
they could beat LSU, and they could have a 4-win season, and their fans would be like, "Okay, we're fine. We're fine. It was a really tough season. All right, we're close in some of these losses. Pete Golding's going to get it turned around, but we got Lane Kiffin. We got the guy. Like, I mean, it's I don't know. I try to imagine like if Steve Sarkisian went to Oklahoma or A&M, and it's just like the amount of hate, or even you could use Jim Slauson will come to Texas, coming to Texas from Texas A&M. Like, it's just one of these deals where, like, at the end of the day, like, they just want to win that one game. They don't care about the others, right? I not say they don't care about the others, but winning that one game could outweigh a bad season. So I don't think there's a lot of pressure for him to go out there and make the playoffs year one. I mean, they clearly made the playoffs in back-to-back years. They got a really good team this year, so there probably should be a little bit of pressure. But I think that ultimately, when you have like a departure like that, a head coach, and then you have that game early on, I think if they just win that one game, their fans are like, all right,
you probably got to win that one, and still like one other game that top 15 win, top 20 win. People will be like, yeah, cool. Hey,
I don't even think they'd be upset about that. Like, I think if they beat Lane Kiffin, it's as long as they're not embarrassed in a game, I think that they're fine.
I can't tell you how much I loved this rivalry before the Lane Kiffin switch, because I just think it's SEC's most underrated rivalry. I really, really do. I think it's fantastic. And now this is going to be crazy. I would do a lot of things to be in Oxford and be able to see that one with my own eyes. So it's going to be a lot of fun. More updates. I'll let Nash pick who he wants to hear about, and we'll discuss from there. But we're going to hear a quick word, guys, from David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
Alrighty, guys, welcome back. Nash, before I let you pick the next school that we're going to talk about a little bit, I do have to bring up something that Golden said. Golden was asked a question. What are the cons of Texas and Oklahoma joining the Big 12, or leaving the Big 12 and joining the SEC? What are the cons of it going to a mega conference, if you will, and 16 teams? And he immediately, of course, tongue in cheek said, having to go to Austin, Texas in October is a con. He again, tongue in cheek, he was laughing a little bit. He went on to say that, having to play two top 10 programs, whether it be in Oxford or whether it be in Norman or Austin, is always going to be a challenge. But then also he made a good point talking about Texas being deeper now in their bag. What's up, Chris? How we doing, my man? Texas being deeper into the state of Mississippi from a recruiting perspective. Oklahoma and Texas both being able to say, hey, you can't use SEC versus Big 12 anymore. You can't sit there and use that in your recruiting pitch. We both rep the same conference patch on our jersey. So now that, I thought that was a really good tidbit from Golding. Again, I know some of the guys over inside Texas might get on me for it, but I thought he absolutely rocked it. I said, when Summerall spoke this morning, I thought he was the most interesting person of the coaches to listen to so far. And then I think Golden immediately just went up in there. He was fantastic. What you got, Nash?
Let's talk about A&M.
Got to talk about A&M, right?
Get them out of the way.
Yeah, Chris, I don't even know, man. I don't know if you can even repeat the question you asked me to ask Elko, but
I don't know if you can repeat the question I told you.
Also likely true. I will say this. I had a few questions locked in. I was ready. I've never asked a question at SEC Media Days, guys, to a coach. I did a few players and stuff. Yesterday, I had to bounce out a little early, get my kiddo back to the airport. And so a lot going on yesterday. And so I was like really weighing in on today. Like, hey, I'm going to go talk to Summerall. I'm going to talk to the Florida Gators, which I did talk to a few of the Florida players. I'll bring those comments up in a bit. But I missed this. I will say this on Summerall. I missed the phone comment. I missed it. I don't know how I got in there. It couldn't have been just minutes, maybe 5 minutes at most after the podium and the phone went off and the whole comment. But what happened was the reporter's phone goes off. Summerall looks at him saying basically like, hey, we kicked you out of a team meeting, and you're lucky that I don't throw this podium at you. But back to Elko, I had a few questions locked in, Nash. I was ready. I thought I had a good arsenal ready. And then I'm not quick enough on the draw, brother. Bam, question gets asked. Well, that's one of mine. Another one, another question of mine. I was like, all of a sudden, man, these guys got good questions too. Now I'm thinking on the fly. We get past all 5 of my questions, and I did like the question we ultimately asked Elko. I got to ask him what are the differences from a game planning or scheming standpoint from when he entered the conference in 2018 up until now. As he's a head coach, obviously at A&M. He talked a lot about the game slowing down, just from a communication standpoint, like how they've really, really been able to. Now you have head coach communication with quarterbacks. You have your defensive player, whoever it is, communicating with the defensive coordinator or head coach, who's the coordinator, whoever it may be. And so just how unique that is. He talked a lot about how the transfer portal is crushed depth, and we've talked about that as well. And so a little bit harder to structure a roster and build a roster when you're having to re-recruit your roster every single cycle, Nash. But yeah, any time that Elko talks, he shows a lot of gratitude. Again, that's sit on Inside Texas. He knows how to work a room. He spent the first 10 minutes talking about his wife, children, and Texas A&M new president, Miss Babalina. And so fun to listen to Elko for the first time seeing him in person. Nash, any comments or thoughts on what Elko had to say?
Yeah, I mean, I hate that I hate having to say this, but I actually don't like. I don't mind Elko. I kind of like him. Like he's you can tell he's a
He's
cool
a ball
coach.
coach. Yeah.
He's definitely he's a guy that you'd easily want to go grab a beer with at the bar, right, and just talk to. Uh, but yeah, it's anytime it's your rival, you're supposed to hate the coach with all your guts. But I just don't feel that way towards Mike Elko. Now, I mean, Texas owns Texas A&M, so there's that. But I'm sure we just not. I mean, I don't know how much of a disagreement he could have with the first 2 years Texas A&M playing Texas in the SEC. But yeah, he's definitely a cool dude.
Yeah, he's a ball coach to me. And again, I know his son Nick, and good people, good family. Not that I'm ever going to root for A&M, nothing like that. But I mean, A&M's definitely had a lot worse coaches, and one of them was the last one they had, and the one before that wasn't better either. And so
Well,
he's one of the better coaches that they've had, in my opinion. But there are some things he's going to have to try and solve with his front, because right now, obviously, Sark hasn't figured it out. Sorry to cut you off.
no, I was my bad on cutting you off, but I was gonna say there's one scenario where I'd root for Texas A&M when they're playing Oklahoma. It just comes down to who do you hate more on the football field.
I'm rooting for 7 overtimes, and
I'm rooting for a meteor at the end of the day. But I mean, if that doesn't happen, then Texas A&M beating Oklahoma, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. The fact that they play the week before A&M we go to College Station, they got to go up to Norman, and we get Arkansas at home. I like that trade off. I'm just saying, but it was again, I like it. I like Elko. I think he's just real. Again, not all coaches out there are they are as you see, and I think that is Elko. So again, we'll see what they look like. He's made comments in the past. He was at the THSCA convention saying that he thinks this is going to be the best secondary he's had since that he's ever had at A&M. And if that is true, that'd be a pretty dang big boost for his defense, because I think by style and nature, schematically, he presents an advantage for his defense in the run game and getting to the quarterback, because he's so aggressive and he's so chaotic with his front. But then you had, let's go to the players for A&M. You had Damian Sanford there, linebacker for A&M. He was fantastic last season. You had Marcus Ratcliffe, stud safety. And then you had Marcel Reed, of course. And so we'll start with Marcel, because, quarterback position, we like to do that. A lot of confidence, Marcel showed. He talked a little bit about, the rivalry a little bit, said that, guys in the locker room didn't necessarily love Texas. And of course, that's not a shocker, surprise to anybody. No one's going to bat an eye there, especially with how those two games have gone since the rivalry has been rekindled. But yeah, he talked a little bit about Holman Wiggins going a little bit wider, more 4 sets spread options for A&M. And I'm curious on that. I commented on Inside Texas saying I'm not sure how they'd run the ball from those sets. They have guys who've been proven on the offensive line elsewhere, but haven't played together. And so curious to see what that looks like. Curious to see what type of step he's made as a passer. But what are your thoughts overall on Marcel Reed, man? They kept reiterating that he was he received the most votes as far as, towards team captaincy. He was the number 1 vote getter. They've got a lot of confidence on Marcel as a leader, and then, taking another step at quarterback.
Yeah. The linebacker, Sanford, he talked about how he's got confidence in he's got a lot of confidence in Marcel Reed. I did kind of like Reed's answer to the LSU. Well, how he's had so much success against them. He's like, my legs, right? It's just it's a simple answer when it comes to that team now. And honestly, I know we're talking about Reed, but that'll be something that's interesting to see with LSU, because they've looked talented in past years under Brian Kelly, but the talent never translated to the field. Kind of similarly to how like a Tom Herman at Texas was. We always had these, 5-star athletes, 4-star athletes out there running around the field, but it never translates to success. It'll be interesting to see if, Lane Kiffin what he can do with, having that's still going to be a talented roster, right? But can that finally translate to some success? So that's kind of one of the things that I took away with the Marcel Reed answer. But yeah, Marcel Reed, again, it's like, obviously they're going to hate Texas and we hate them. It is what it is. But again, he's not like a guy that like you feel like you want to hate, right? He's not like outwardly talking a lot of crap and all that stuff. So uh,
Yeah, I mean, he's not. Yeah, it's never like he's like crazy loud and outspoken, and the media doesn't really hype him up the way they do some quarterbacks. So it's not like a natural disdain for the guy. I did. He talked a lot about just developing and improving on a quarterback. Somebody asked him, what he's done to take that next step. And again, Sanford said, he just straight up, he was like, I asked Sanford, I was like, what gives you confidence that he's ready? And he was like, his confidence. So, but yeah, Marcel is, he was just like, I just hang with Holman. I hang with Coach Lynch, the quarterback coach, and we just sit there and they pick my brain, I pick theirs, and just trying to figure it out one thing at a time. And trying not to always go for that big play. Shout out my guy Drew TAMU talking about that a little earlier. Sometimes I was maybe one of his fallacies last year was just going being a little bit too aggressive at times. And we saw that even from March. So very curious to see what that offense looks like. I'm kind of with you on this. I have a lot of question marks. Rex St. Charles about Holman Wiggins as well. What does he look like in game play calling? What does he look like week to week, schematically, game planning for, what does that all look like? I don't know. And I just feel like as long as he's been around, I don't know. I just feel like it was too comfortable of a hire, but Elko did say that they basically did both. They hired in-house, but they also had a national search. And so, I mean, it feels like they did test some candidates. It didn't work out. Did they settle? Time will tell. I do respect you for this. You disconnect from everybody. Focus on the horns. We need you. We need you focused on the horns, David. We need you. And it's good to see your name up here again, man. It's been a little while. Thanks for checking in. I mean, yeah, so you sucks. It's pretty easy to recognize that name, brother. Good to see you here again. And to your question, graduation speech. I mean, hey, man, he is what it is. He's kind of a good old boy, He's just out there thanking the folks around him. But yeah, he showed a lot of gratitude towards the media and stuff. I got no qualms with what Elko said, but of course we're probably gonna get slandered a little bit here on the Inside Texas Nash.
Oh yeah, I mean, look at these two Aggie lovers over here.
Yeah, right.
Just because.
Now, it was fun. Again, ball coach Sanford. I'll go with Ratcliffe first. I talked to Ratcliffe first, and I just wanted to say it was pretty cool. You find out more and more about these players. Kind of in this role that I'm in now, and getting to hear Elko talk about what Marcus Ratcliffe is doing as a Mission 312 charity. So what Mission 312 is essentially is a 3 for Marcus Ratcliffe's number, the 12 for the 12th man. And they raise money for WW2 veterans to take trips to Normandy, France for educational purposes. And I was like, well, dang, man, I'm all kind of like pent up. Like, I don't want to like anything these Aggies have to say. And that they roll that at me. And I'm like, all right, that's pretty cool. So probably the coolest part of the day was like going to Ratcliffe and asking what motivated him to start that charity. And what she said his dad, was a former Marine and got into, why what motivated him to do that, and how every turnover for A&M that creates $312 towards that charity. They raised over $30,000 last year, so a pretty cool thing, man. So that was cool to check with Ratcliffe. He was asked a lot of questions about Texas. The Texas guys, we got over there before anybody else, and I think I was the second question maybe, or the first question, and he gave me a real answer. Again, I'm asking him about his charity. He was very respectful towards Texas the first time he was asked about Arch, and said that Arch was a great player. Said that Sark's creativity made it difficult to prepare for Texas. But the more questions he was asked about Texas, the shorter his answers got. You can imagine, Nash, if there's a scenario these A&M players are really, really tired. Mike Elko as well, about being asked about the last 2 beatdowns, and hey, even from their own fan base saying like, hey, like it's about time you go and beat these guys. We need it to happen.
Yeah, I could see that getting old real quick, because especially if the first time you get asked a question, you're like, okay, I'm going the really respectful route, right? I'm not gonna give any bulletin board material or anything like that for later in the year, and then you just get hounded again and again and again. It's just like, all right, let's move on to a different team at least, or something like that. Like I'm just trying to picture like a Texas baseball player getting asked 20 questions about Texas A&M, like, and they did in the press conferences, but it was just kind of like, okay, it's just the same. It's just an opponent. Just keep the same thing. Just don't focus too much on one one opponent being the big bad wolf. And I think that that's probably going to be key to their success if they go and play Texas and beat Texas. Is they got to. I mean, football is one of these emotional sports where you can get rewarded for having emotion, but it's a dangerous game. If you play with too much emotion, to play, that's how you start turning over the football. That's how you start making mistakes. That's how you start, giving up penalties, and ultimately, that's how you lose ball games.
Yeah.
You can get lucky because sometimes that dude is that dude, right? And like he just sometimes playing with your heart on your sleeve, you can go out there and do some things that you probably didn't think that weren't possible before. But man, it's a dangerous game, and I mean it'll be interesting to see how they approach that game because I mean like you said, like and like some of the dude like yes OU sucks is saying Elko's seeming stiff. I don't know if Elko's on a hot seat, but it's definitely getting to the point where I think if they lose to Texas again, then it's like, dude, you got to beat them, right? Like you got to, especially if they're in a situation where if they lose that game, they're out of the playoff contention. That's where that conversation can get really, really, that I think that's when the hot seat would start.
Again, we can motivate them all we want. They have a tougher schedule this year. You know what I mean? And like you just said,
all SEC teams do.
9 games. It's a lot more difficult. I think, DKW spitting fire as always. I think they had a better offensive line of skill position talent around him last year. I mean, I really do. I think Isaiah Horton's good, but I don't think he's as good as KC Concepcion. And now they're two different players and what they can do, two different skill sets. They needed the size of Isaiah Horton to help them in the red zone, but I don't disagree with that comment at all. I'll say this. I think Texas and Oklahoma from this coming version of Texas and Oklahoma, since they play both, would have been the best two teams on A&M's schedule last year in a landslide. And an absolute landslide. Yeah, I'm sure that they reacted to that. If you missed it, Mike Elko was asked how he keeps his players
keeping it real, man.
And he said, basically, long story short, I just show him the empty trophy case. Michelle, appreciate you on the articles. Thank you very much for reading. Eric will tell you, he had to push me pretty hard to get me to write an article. It took a little while. That one was a bit overdue. You didn't notice any day 1 or day 2, articles coming out, but I got you. We made up for it. Thanks for reading. Yep, we'll see. Long way to go. I will say Damian Sanford, again, he was hurt earlier or late spring. Elko talked today, said that he would be back healthy at some point. Didn't really give you a timeline on that. Obviously, A&M needs him in the fold. They're not super deep at the linebacker position. They have a couple guys that are okay. They got a couple of young guys that are going to be really good. So it doesn't really work out for them. They need Sanford to be ready and available. He is, he said basically, that Texas is a must-win game, that they needed to beat Texas, but they don't prepare for Texas, like Texas is everything. He knows they've got to go 1 week at a time. He said he's just kind of hanging out, doing what he can to help the guys, while he recovers. That's the guy, and keep paying attention to the name, Damian Sanford. For one, he's a hell of a really, really good player. And it needs them on the football field for sure in the fall if they're going to hit their upside. And again, it's a college athlete rooting for the kid to be healthy and to get his chance out there. You know what I mean? But there you go right there. I don't know, DKW. I don't know. They're still raising money for whoever's still living. So good on him for doing something good, man. But again, thank you for your service, my man. Appreciate what you've done. Yeah, that's funny. At least A&M scored on us. Yeah, that again, we didn't really talk much about the OU guys, but I guess we can have a couple comments on what we heard from them earlier in the week if somebody did miss it. But real quick, we're going to go to Lux Kitchen and Bath, and we'll be right back.
Are you ready to love your kitchen and bathroom again? Lux Kitchen and Bath will bring that to life. Lux has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Lux Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring your dream vision to life. But that's not all. Lux's all-star team also provides full home remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Lux Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUX today, or visit luxkitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get your free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Contact info is in the description.
There you go again. Big thanks to Dave McClellan and Lux Kitchen and Bath for sponsoring tonight's show. Yeah, Oklahoma, Taylor Wine kind of alluded to the fact that, like, hey, Texas is just another game. Again, I understand that sentiment. I don't think you want to post too much bulletin board material out there. Not that it's going to make that game any hotter, hotter and heavier than it already is, Nash. I mean, it's Red River. We're going to be there, and we're going to be as amped as always, my man. So I don't put too much stock into that. I know some Texas fans are going to see and be like, well, oh my gosh, I get it. But at the same time, I get why he said what he said. There was a little tidbit on John Mateer kind of asked, and again, maybe a little bit out of context, but John Mateer being asked about reading SEC defenses. And the comment he made was, there's not really time to read anything. If someone's open, you just throw it, which, let's be honest, borderline hilarious. I'm just call it what it is. Not too much from, there's like a quiet confidence with this OU group. I think, they act like Mateer's really gone a somewhat of a transformation in the offseason. The guy who works really, really hard. He's a crazy, athlete. He's pretty impressive physical specimen. It's like, can he ever start throwing the football with touch? Can he start layering throws, reading defenses? So is he working on that, Nash? Do you think we're going to see a big elevation in John Mateer's play? Because I feel like that's what they're trying to tell us we're going to get, but I just don't know, brother.
You're muted. Oh.
Can you hear me?
This is awkward. I'm not getting the audio on my end. Here, hold on 1 second.
Like this, comment and let me know if you can hear me, guys, please. Just while me and Ash figure this out together here. Let me know if you can hear me. But and I don't know. Again, I like this Oklahoma defense. I think they're gonna be pretty good. I think they're gonna be strong up front. I think they're great at linebacker. They've got Taylor, and that's not to knock Taylor Wine. He might be the best not edge rusher, but he plays a hell of a defensive end. Okay, good. You can hear me, and Ash will be back in just a minute. I believe it was Mateer who's revamping mechanics. So yeah, I believe it was Mateer. And if that is the case, then we'll see. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, literally my audio just went out of nowhere. I just have to plug it back in.
We're back. And again, clarifying comments on Taylor Wine. I think he plays a position really well of playing a defensive end. I'm not talking about him being the edge rusher. But yeah, I think they're going to be really good. I really, really do. I think OU's going to be tough because if you're John Mateer, you have to work on your mechanics, right? You can't make plays like you did against Texas and Alabama and think like, okay, like I'm going to keep collecting a big bag and I'm going to go play at the next level. Like he had to go to work, right? So we'll see if there is a big improvement. No idea what to expect there, but I do think that they made the improvements in the run blocking game. I think they'll be better offensively on the offensive line. And I think that, they've added the H-back tight end guys that they need to kind of run that system they want to. They want to push the ball down the field. They're going to be aggressive and take their shots. But at the same time, you got to be able to run the football a little bit, and they couldn't do it at all last year. So I wouldn't be shocked at all, Michelle, to see a somewhat major revamp. I mean, he's got a lot of zip on the ball, but he obviously needed some fine tuning with the mechanics on there. Welcome back, Nash. Glad to have you.
Well, and the mechanics part is one of the deals where you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like you don't know if the mechanics are going to go the right way or they're going to go the wrong way.
They better be some major upgrades. Look at these numbers. I mean, you can't have that TD to INT ratio.
You cannot sit. They can't sit there and say, "Oh, well, his thumb. He's still dealing with thumb injury issues," and that'll probably end up being the cope if that is. But I mean, I go back to me and you had some conversations about OU versus Michigan when we're because we're obviously trying to do some scouting for Texas for the Texas versus OU game. There was probably 3 or 4 throws that he should have had interceptions on that the ball hit defenders' hands in the Michigan game. Like they were interceptions on a golden platter.
In that first half too, there was like 3 alone.
And so this is one of these areas where, like, I think that if you're going up to NFL teams, right, they're going to say, look, that ball's getting picked off versus, NFL players, right? NFL players are not going to drop that football. So just because the pick isn't showing up in the box score doesn't mean we're not, looking at that as an issue. I mean, call it what it is. He struggled versus Illinois State. The entire offense struggled versus Illinois State. They were in a really close game early on, and I think all the way through 3 quarters.
Yep.
Until they finally started to separate. So there were some obvious issues there, and I know people could say, "Oh, well, what about Arch Manning versus UTEP and all that stuff?" Well, Arch Manning went and finished the year with 15 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, right? Like he finished the year showing that he could, while being under a lot of pressure, that he could go out there and actually play some winning football and play some efficient football. John Mateer hasn't shown that yet. Now, thumb injury, maybe that's the case, but I don't know. The one thing I will say is I did kind of feel like his not that you would recognize this, being a Top Gun hater that you are, but it felt like his answer with the you don't have time to think back there. It felt like that was a reference to a Top Gun line where Maverick's sitting there. He's like, they're in the taxi room, and he's like, you don't have time to think up there. If you think, you're dead.
Maybe I need to watch it. I'm just kidding. I'm not watching it. I'm just kidding. 2 things on that though. One, I find it interesting that post Red River, it was very adamantly said like that injury had nothing to do with performance. And now the further away we get from Red River, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, wait a minute, my hand was really an issue. I'm not trying to knock the guy, but it's just weird how the narrative shifts. And all of a sudden now it is his hand, and you even have people here in media that think it was mostly hand related, and maybe it was, but he did make the comment right after the game that hand was fine. I'm pretty sure that was a direct quote. Hand was fine. OU running backs are Jags. The O-line may improve. The O-line will improve, but won't mean much if the running backs are average. Well, here's the thing. You nailed it. You said the running backs are average, and that's pretty much what they are, unless there's something that I don't see that they have brewing up there, man. I can't disagree with that at all. Not a single bit. So that's where, to me, the big issue comes in, Nash. John Mateer's got to run the football, right? That they might be in a situation this year that Texas was in last year. Let's pop this.
Yeah, I mean, so this is when fans sit there and say the thumb injury is a big issue. The numbers are right on par with after injury as before injury, right? It's the same accuracy, same catchable percentage. It's the same on target percentage. And when you actually remove the Illinois State game and you look at only the Power 5 games that you played, it was even worse than after the injury. Yeah. So after the injury, playing Power 4 teams, he got better. And I'm ignore the Power 5. That's just me still being used to the good old days of the 5 power conferences. It feels so weird to say like group of 6 now in Power 4, but yeah, I mean, it's just at a certain point, I think that ignoring numbers like this and trying to blame it on an injury is just going to set yourself up for defeat later on, because you got to recognize there's an actual issue there. And I think that they did, the team, and obviously if his mechanics are fine, they're not going to be changing it, right? So obviously there has to be an issue for them to be doing a mechanics change. And anytime you hear mechanics being changed, that does feel like almost like a kind of like a glaring issue was found.
And my big thing was elbow placement. He doesn't have the right elbow slot when he tries to layer throws over defenders or drop a throw over a defender under another defender. And so when you're playing zone coverages or you're playing man match at times, and that's where you've seen some of the weird interceptions, in my opinion. You've seen some throws that have been egregiously bad. And again, not to pick on the young guys, just call it what it is. They've been horrible. So is there going to be a major change? We'll see. You got to still be able to read defenses. You got to be able to do that. But like you just showed on the numbers, man, the completion percentage was higher. The TD percentage was higher before. But who were they playing before and after injury? That makes a very big, very, 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 very big difference, man. So,
and it's also like the thumb injury. That's not making you throw the ball into triple coverage. Right?
That's my thing. It doesn't affect your decision.
That's not making you throw and then there were a couple throws that's like, is he targeting Texas defenders?
We watched him pregame.
Did Moneyline Mateer have money on the game?
We watched him pregame and he was spinning the rock. I'm just saying.
No, yeah, we both made that comment that he was doing good throwing the football. The thumb injury doesn't look like it's bothering him. But yeah,
I either posted that exact comment or I posted video proof. And again, I'm not trying to knock the guy, but he looked okay pregame. I'm just saying, it looks all right. Yeah, there you go. Good point. Jared Goff came back, same entry, same timeline, just fine. Great point, Michelle. Yeah, that's a good point. Now, when that O-line was as bad as it was, I don't think that helps him. When there's not another running back that can kind of hold when you know it's going to be a ball fake and Mateer comes, or it's going to be a counter to Mateer, a little easier to defend. So, not that they necessarily like upgraded the running back talent to where it's going to be like maybe a huge difference maker. But the O-line will be slightly better. Again, I don't know. They're going to
it
have
was
to run the ball.
bad last year. It was like I
Awful.
didn't realize it was like the advanced numbers on the offensive line, like arguably worse than Texas.
This is where you find out for sure if what's the OU O-line guy? I'm drawing a blank. Is it dude? Biedenbo. So sorry, Bill Biedenbo.
No, not Bedenbaugh.
Is it
no,
not?
I know who you're talking about. You're talking about the former player.
No, the O-line coach.
Oh yeah, Bill
Sorry,
Bedenbaugh.
I just absolutely went blank on me.
I thought you were talking about that offensive line guy, the former offensive line that was talking about crap.
Oh, there's always a scenario talking a little bit of crap on social media. But no, I think this is where you find out if Biedenbo's lost his fastball, because he's got a lot of the same names from last year, and a lot of people on outside of Norman kind of suspect he's lost his fastball, considering what OU's lines have looked like in the last few seasons. But then again, they've had a lot of overturned offensive coordinator. They switched head coach. They completely switched playing styles. They switched conferences. A lot of these same guys. Okay, if it looks anywhere close to where it did last year, like, they're going to be in deep, deep, deep trouble, because again, I don't know if Mateer can survive the season playing the type of football OU is going to need him to play to make a playoff appearance again. If he's having to run the ball 10, 12, 15 times a game, they need some type of second, third option even. And that's what Texas has the luxury of now. We had Arch Manning last year where he had to be RB1. Hey, that's what it was. Hate that was reality for us, but it is what it is. That could be Oklahoma's reality this year. We'll see. We'll see, Nash. All right. Yeah. Any other? Who we got tomorrow? We got tomorrow, so we're gonna get you out of here soon. We got Lane Kiffin tomorrow. That'll be fun. We got Arkansas tomorrow. New head coach Ryan Silverfield. I look forward to talking a little bit of offense with Jeff Lebby because of the style he runs. Not that I love Art Browse, but I'm a fan of the system, and it's easy for these kids to learn and then execute. So therefore, it makes it really easy for Jeff Lebby to teach to 50 new players a year in and year out. And then, of course, Texas, Steve Sarkisian, Arch Manning, Trevor Gooseby, Colin Simmons will round out the 2026 SEC Media Days here in Tampa Bay. Very excited to get to talk with those guys. If y'all have any questions, Nash, you have any questions? Anybody has anything they want us to bring up to Sark, anything in particular, or to Arch, Trevor, or Colin, let me know, and I'll do my absolute best to ask it for you and get you a response. Okay, guys? So, Nash, you got anything else that you'd like to get at? Anything in the comments anything y'all want us to bring up before we let everybody go?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Greg Sankey media, his appearance in the media days early in 2 days ago. He's talking about when they met with the college football playoff members in Destin, and quote, "We had what I would call an unsatisfactory conversation with the college football playoff staff at spring meetings and have questions about them understanding the strength of the SEC." People can complain all they want about, oh my God, Nash, you're still coping about it. But I will go back to, and I will continue to die on this hill, when the college football playoff left Texas out of the playoff with the loss to Ohio State early in the year, that set the precedent for some bad stuff as far as strength of schedule goes, because people can say all they want that it was the Florida loss that kicked Texas out. It was any one of the Florida loss, the Georgia loss, or the Ohio State loss. All three losses were on the road. Yes, Florida loss is embarrassing. I'm not going to hide from that. That was a terrible loss. I was ranting after we lost that game. It was bad. Literally the rest of the season was playing for, like, when we go to play Oklahoma, we're playing for our season that week, right? Now, at the end of the day, if Texas does play Texas State instead of Ohio State, and we win against Texas State, and we have our 2 losses are to Florida on the road and Georgia on the road, Texas is in the college football playoff. We slide in at the very end. And I think that that's what everybody was expecting. You heard Steve Sarkisian. He talked about it at the he talked about it in the spring last year, saying, hey, that game versus Ohio State, right? We're expecting that to be rewarded. Leading up the week before, both him and Ryan Day were sitting there saying, hey, we don't want the loser of this game to get punished, right? Because these are 2 really good teams. We want these games to happen, right? We want to encourage these games to be played. And what they're hearing right now is that the strength of schedule just doesn't matter, despite whatever the committee's putting on their guidelines for the not guidelines, but their priorities to the college football playoff, and what they're looking at to get teams into the college football playoff. It's clear that Greg Sankey and the SEC are hearing that we don't give a crap about strength of schedule. Have a good record at the end of the year, and I don't know. Greg Sankey's got to be sitting there going, man, what the hell? We're going to a 9 games conference slate, and we could be headed for disaster because it's like a previous conversation I had with you in one of these lives. Man, I mean, there's a disaster scenario where there's not a SEC team that has more than 3 losses or has less than 3 losses. So then what does the college football playoff committee do? Do they leave the SEC out? Or do they, get 1 or 2 teams in just, as like a, gimme? I don't know. I hate that this, kind of argues for expansion up to 24. I hate the idea of expanding even more. But yeah, it's just like Michelle's saying, at the very least, it's 9 extra losses. And in the SEC where the games are this, this high level, it's like one of the guys that was going on the podium for Texas had no reason to go out there other than, maybe he's friends with Sark. But Kirby Smart was one of the biggest defenders about Texas, saying that Texas was one of the hardest teams that Georgia had played all year long and that they absolutely deserved to be on the college football playoff. And at the end of the day, we just get left right outside the college football playoff. So it's just, it's like being in line for a movie for the premiere of a movie release, and you're 2 spots outside the door, and you're just sitting there having to watch everybody else go in and have a good time. I don't know. It's not good things because you look at like the amount of talent that Florida put into the NFL draft is more than some of these teams, some of the college football playoff teams that were, I think Texas Tech had less players drafted in the NFL. It's just, it's one of these deals where the weak teams in the SEC are probably better than the strong teams in some of these other conferences.
That's the things. It's the Big Ten is top heavy. The SEC, I feel like, has more meat in the middle. And even some of the teams at the bottom can sneak up and bite you in the SEC. And I don't feel that way about the Big Ten. And so I agree with you, Nash. It's tough. Like, we added Texas and Oklahoma.
We signed up for
the Big Ten.
Big player shit, man.
One more conference game just so we could get a little bit more paper in all the 16 conference members' pockets. Sankey is talking, in my opinion, from a defeated tone. He doesn't have the same just glow that he did when you had big bad Nick Saban there to just stand over you and make sure that everybody has a big time respect for your conference. And that's not to knock Sankey or anything like that. It's just we've taken some losses in the SEC. It is what it is. I said on Inside Texas, it was kind of like we're taking uppercuts from the Big Ten with our hand tied behind our back. That's what it feels like. That's what moving to 9-game conference schedule feels like to me. I feel like we just absolutely caved and now made it a lot more difficult to get more SEC, who may be the most deserving teams, into the playoff picture, because there are going to be teams out there in other conferences with better records just because the schedule is 2, 3, 4 times as easy as what all these SEC teams are going to have to deal with. So,
we'll see. 4 years.
Yeah. And so one comment that I'll make, though, is if anybody thinks that when there are rumors or talks about the SEC potentially breaking off, again, these are just rumors, and they're thinking like, oh, those 16 teams can go and have fun and do whatever they want to do. It's not just 16 teams. look out. You better watch out. I'm just saying, if it gets to a situation where a lot of 9-3 SEC teams are left off the playoff bracket next year after just absolutely beating each other up, having a lot of good teams beat other good teams, what's going to happen? Somebody has to win the dang game, Nash. And then there's 11-1, 11-1, 10-2, 10-2, 10-2, 10-2, or whatever from other conferences that are just, it's just the top playing one or two difficult games in conference play, maybe one difficult game out of conference. But I mean, I will say this: a lot of the Big Ten teams, they do, like, USC has a pretty tough schedule, Oregon has a pretty tough schedule, Ohio State, the top of their schedule is tough. It's like a quarter of their schedule is really tough. But man, it feels like Texas has like 8 or 9 games where it's like, man, we better go play well in that, or it won't be easy whatsoever. You just take a loss.
Well, I mean, and it's not just, this isn't just an SEC thing. You're seeing league wide, like when I say league wide, I'm talking NCAA. Across the entire NCAA, you're seeing these big games get canceled, and I don't think that's any coincidence. They sit there and they watch what happened to Texas, and well, what if we go and we lose? What if we, like? What's the point of playing a tough game in September if one extra loss is the difference between you making the cultural playoff or not? At the end of the day, do fans care about that game in September? No. I know a lot of our fans and Chris Delcani, they've been grandstanding on, well, we're not going to cancel this Ohio State game. Steve Sarkisian wasn't happy about it, right?
Right.
To be honest, Ryan Day's probably not happy about it. He's probably not happy about because Ohio State, they don't have a really super easy schedule. So playing that game early in the year, it's just it feels almost kind of pointless, right? Because one team is going to end up getting punished severely for it, and that could losing that game. And for what it's worth, doesn't matter if it's a close game or not. Texas and Ohio State played about as close of a game that you could last year. That game went down to the wire, and it's not like Texas. It would be one thing if Texas absolutely got blown out and trounced versus Ohio State, and then lost to Florida, and then lost to Georgia. That was a really, really close game, and I don't know. It's just, I think that the cultural playoff, they chose their hill to die on. They've set some bad precedents, and I think that the sport of college football is starting to see, the ramifications for it, because it's just, I think back to how, like, week one games are usually terrible, right? You're sitting there, you're going like, what is this? Like, we're watching Northwestern State versus USC or something like that, or but like, Illinois State versus Oklahoma, right? It's not like, these aren't high level matchups. These are the games that you flip off, you flip off of after one or two quarters, right? Because teams are all blowing each other out. And the reality is that is going to be September football for college football fans across the board.
It's going to look like the NFL preseason. So yeah, it's weird times. It's going to, again, that's what I've talked about before. You don't want to discourage playing those big games. So you have to figure out a way to get the absolute best teams in the playoff field. And again, this isn't me screaming that Texas was the most deserving, or one of the 12 most deserving best teams, or one of the 12 most deserving teams. I do think at year's end, Texas was one of the 12 best teams. And those two things are very, very different. So please understand that I mean that. I do think Texas, one of the best 12, not one of the most 12 deserving necessarily. It is what it is. Don't lose to Florida the way you did. Don't lose to Georgia and have that fourth quarter the way you did. Find a way to score the ball against Ohio State. You win that game. It is what it is. Now, Nash, I think we've had a great show, but we do have to go. And I want to end on the note. You brought up Florida, and it triggered the memory. I'm working on my first article for Inside Texas today, and I posted that over there. And the SEC Network guys are behind me. And Peter Burns is talking to John Summerall, the whole crew's there. And Summerall's going on about Jaden Ball and how excited and happy he was to hang on to him, in which Peter Burns said, "Oh, people wanted Jaden Ball. People are after Jaden Ball." And Summerall just, hey, I've seen some texts. It was pretty funny, man. Everybody in that room, Nick Saban laughed very hard. It was a funny moment. And again, he was about 35 yards behind me, and I think he got a chuckle from almost everybody in the room. Pretty good tidbit there. Summerall definitely won the day. He had a great presser. There's a lot of people there, a lot of energy. Again, the podium thing was funny, but yeah, Nash.
Summerall feels like he's going to be a fun coach to follow.
Hey, you can tell the Florida Gators like him a lot already. Between Vernell Brown was there, Jaden Ball was there, Miles Graham was there. I talked to Miles Graham for a moment, asked him about, um, just how difficult it is to prepare for a Texas offense with the creativity. Kind of tough to ask Miles Graham too many questions, considering that defense pressured us 37 times last year. He had 5 solo tackles, 3 more assisted tackles. I was like, how do I approach this? So I was like, hey, you played him twice. How difficult is it to prepare for that offense? And he said, Sark's real creative and he's great, tough to prepare for, all the, the typical things there. So, but yeah, listen to Jaden Ball a little bit. It definitely sounded like the top of that Florida Gators football program, like their big dogs. It definitely sounded like, hey, if one of them would have portaled, they all would have portaled. That's just kind of the way it sounded, the way that Bob was talking about Miles Graham and Vernell Brown and just the different guys. And so it's cool to get a little bit of insight from all of them. And we'll have more tomorrow from Tampa Bay, and we'll have LSU and Arkansas in the morning session, Mississippi State, Texas in the evening session. So one more time, if you have anything you want asked to Arch, Sark, Trevor, or Colin, just let us know. We'll get it in there. But again, thanks for watching. Make sure you're please throwing a like on the video. And then again, make sure you're hopping on over to Inside Texas and taking advantage of the $1 flash sale we got going right now. You get half off a year membership after that. So appreciate you guys, all of you, man. Evan, it was good to see your name in here again. OU Sucks is in here. DKW, my guy. We appreciate you guys, man. It means a lot. Y'all make the show is what it is. We were going to go for 30 minutes and y'all made it fun. Y'all said, hey, we're in here, we're supporting. And so we kept it rolling. Michelle, appreciate you, Joshy. I didn't mean to ignore you all night, man. But you know what you do with your comments. So sometimes we got to leave them down there.
Extend my bedtime for another 30 minutes, man. Good Lord.
Joshy versus Nash, the rivalry we all need and love. All right, guys, one more time. Thanks for watching Inside Texas, and we'll see you tomorrow.